Okay, so how do we add and subtract with time? Sometimes it can be difficult and other times it can be easier. So for instance, just to recap, first of all, remember that an hour is made up of 60 minutes. So if ever we go over 60 minutes, we've actually gone an hour. And a minute is made up of 60 seconds. So if you ever go over 60 seconds, you've got a minute. Fortunately, because there are 60 minutes to an hour and 60 seconds to a minute, any techniques that we can use for minutes can be applied to seconds. So if we've got a question like this, for instance, we've got 30 minutes and 20 minutes, the answer is fairly simple because it just comes to 50 minutes. It's less than a minute. It hasn't reached 60. So all we've got to do is add the two times together and we get lovely 50 minutes. Easy enough. But where the problems come is when the two numbers add up to be over 60. So here we've got 45 minutes and 17 minutes. And we get 62 minutes. So now this is telling us that actually, because there's 60 minutes to an hour, this isn't simply 62 minutes. We'd have to write our answer in hours and minutes. So how do we go about doing that? Well, the first thing is take away 60 from the number of minutes. And you take away 60 as many times as you can, noting how many times you do it. In this case, we can only take away 60 once. So 62 take away 60 and it leaves us with 2 minutes. And that tells us, because we took the 60 out once, and remember 60 minutes is an hour, we've taken 1 hour out and that is left the 2 minutes behind. So once we've done the adding of 45 add 17 and that given us 62, we worked out how many hours that was by taking 60s out, in this case just 1 hour, and then the remainder is the number of minutes, so 1 hour and 2 minutes. Okay, so sometimes as well it gets a little bit more difficult when you're given a clock time. So in this case 7:24, 7 hours and 24 minutes, and you have to add some minutes or some time on, because now we've got hours and minutes and we've got to add minutes on. So the first thing we're going to do is take the minutes of both the times, forget about the hours for a second, we'll add them on. 24 add 50 gives me 74. Our next thing is to work out how many hours and how many minutes this is. And like we said in the last part, taking away the 60s is the way to work out how many hours it is. So I do 74 take away 60 gives me 14. So when I take away 1 hour, it leaves me with 14. So the time I've got so far, excluding the 7 hours, the 7 hours in the 7:24, is 1 hour and 14 minutes. I'm going to add that 1 extra hour onto the 7 that we originally had. So it becomes 8 hours. And then all I do is forget about this 24 and the 50 up by here. I put the 14 on the end. So the answer is 8:14. So to go through it again, I add the two lots of minutes together, forgetting about the hours, gives me 74. Work out how many hours and minutes that is by taking away the 60s, like we mentioned, we've already discussed. Add the number of hours that is to the original number of hours, which gives me the number of hours at the moment, so 8. And then the remainder minutes go on as the minutes, so 8:14. So here's another example which can be tricky. 14:45, 24-hour clock, 14:45, and we're taking 57 minutes away. So the trouble with this is when I look at this, if I tried to take away 15 from 45, I can't do it because 57, I said 15 then, sorry, 57 is greater than 45. So if I tried to take 57 away from 45, the 57 is too big. So just like we do in regular subtraction, I'm going to borrow 1 from the hours. So I borrow 1 from the hours and take 1 off it. So the hours, 14, becomes 13. And because I've borrowed 1, what I've now got is an extra 60 minutes. Every one of those hours that I'm taking off is an extra 60 minutes. So I can add that onto the minutes I've got already, the 45, and it becomes 105 minutes. So what I've got is 13 hours and 105 minutes. From the 105, I can take away the 57 because the 105 is now bigger, giving me 48. And that tells me my answer, because the answer is going to be 13 hours and 48 minutes. So when you're taking away and the number we're taking away is bigger than the minutes in the second one, borrow 1 from the hours. That'll allow us to add 60 to the number of minutes we're working with. Do the subtraction, and then we're left with the number of hours, which is the original, take away the number we borrowed, and the number of minutes left from the subtraction. Okay, so this time, when it gets even complicated still, is when we're asked to add on or subtract a time that takes us over the midnight mark. So in this case, we've got 22:45, and we're being asked to add 85 minutes on. So our first job is to add the 2 minutes together as we did before, and 45 add 85 is 130 minutes. We can then work out how many hours and minutes that is, so by deducting 60. So I take away 1 out of 60, that's 1 hour, becomes 70 minutes. I take another lot of 60 out, so 2 hours so far, and that's 10 minutes. So then I add the 2 to the 22, and the thing is here it becomes 24. And if you remember, we never have a 24 hours. So what I've got to do is I've got to take 24 off. So if it ever goes 24 or more, the hours, we take 24 off, telling me that the number of hours at the moment is 0, and our answer is 0, 10. 10 from the number of minutes we worked out by taking this off, and 0 because when the number went to 24 or above, we had to take 24 hours off. And that means it's 0, 10 of the next day. So this was 22:45 in the previous day. This is 0, 10 and the next day. So what did I do altogether to summarize? I added the 45 and the 85, added the 2 lots of minutes just as before to get 130 minutes. I took the 60s out to work out how many hours and minutes that was, 2 hours and 10 minutes. I've got to add the 2 hours on to the 22 I originally had to become 24. Because it was 24 or more, I've got to take 24 off, giving me 0 hours. And then I've got my answer, the 0 hours I've calculated here, and the 10 minutes that I have from this calculation earlier on by here. Another little example, if it's 0, 0, 6, and I'm going to take 12 minutes off. Now the problem here is, just as we just saw in the other one, it's kind of reversing in the other direction. So if I did simply 6 take away 12, I'm going to have -6, and I can't do that. So what I'm going to do is change the 0 hours to 24. Now I know we said there is no 24 hours, we can't write that down, but for the moment we're going to put it down, and what you'll see in a minute is that that 24 changes. So for the moment I'm changing the 0 hours to 24:06. And now we still have the problem that the 12 is bigger than the 6, but I can now borrow 1 like we did earlier, take away 1 from the 24 and add 60 to the 66. So we have now 23 hours and 66 minutes. I then take the 12 minutes away, and my answer is 23 hours and 54 minutes. So if ever you're going to cross over into the number of over the midnight point backwards, just change the 0 to 24, and then you can borrow from the 24 like we did before. And that's how we add and subtract with 24-hour time.